Hey guys, this is my 1999 Lumina project car. We're going to be doing the discs and the pads on it today. And I'll start it up and show you what the problem is. Pretty much what's gone on is there's no pad left. So as you can hear, it's just squealing away. Metal on metal. So we're going to fix that today. So as you see here, we are going to be removing the hubcap. It is going to be a 19 socket or a 3/4. We're just speeding that up here to save time. But once you remove the hubcap, it will be the same socket to remove the lug nuts. You want to crack each of the lug nuts around the wheel so that once you lift it off, you can easily remove the wheel and the lug nuts. We now got the car jacked up and safely secured on jack stands. With the 19mm socket or the 3/4 inch socket, we are going to remove each one of the lug nuts and then we can pull the wheel off. With a 15mm socket, we can remove the caliper, which gives us access to the pads. We then pull our caliper off and put it in a safe location so it does not put stress on the brake line. I put mine on the A-arm right here. We then grab a T60 torque spit to loosen the two bolts holding in the caliper bracket. At this time, we can pull our rotor off. Here's my brand new pads and rotors from, the pads are Wagner and the rotors are Monroe. Picked them up at Canadian Tire. Got the rotors for about $132 it says, and the pads were about $35. But they look good and they'll last a while, so we'll put those on the car. Alright, so I did a alternative step. I actually painted the areas where they normally rust. People say that you cannot paint the discs. Of course, you don't want to paint at all in the area where the pads are touching. That will just muck up your brakes big time. But I masked off the whole area, as you can see, and I painted the areas that rust and are visible usually when you have the rims on. Of course, I just have steelies, but if I decide to go with aluminum rims, they'll actually, look new still. And that way, when you service the brake and everything, everything looks good. So pretty much all I did there was I took some of this disc brake cleaner over here. I have it on the front side. Oops. But yeah, I sprayed that, made sure it was all clean. Then I went over to this caliper paint and I painted that clear. And I did the same for the back. So yeah, just an alternative step. You don't have to do it, but I chose to do it. Did an extra little thing to make the car look a bit better down the road. To remove the pads is pretty easy. The outer pad, you have to use a flathead screwdriver to pull back a metal clip, and it should come out easy like that. The inner pad's just held in by two little metal clips, and you can pull that right out. It is important to use some penetrating oil when loosening the bleeder screws. They are usually pretty stubborn and you do not want to break them. I used a 10mm deep socket. Mine came off pretty easy, but you may need to use some heat. When replacing your pads and rotors, you will need to push the pistons back in the caliper to their original position. I used the old pad to protect the pistons, as I used a C-clamp to compress the pistons back into the caliper. When the bleeder open, it allows the brake fluid to come out and the pistons to go back in easy, but you will need to bleed your brakes after the process. I removed the old pad from when I was compressing the pistons. I then grabbed my new pads. They go in pretty easy. The inner pad goes in and just clicks in like that, and while the outer pad, you still need that flathead screwdriver to pull back that metal clip. The new pads will look something like this. Make sure your caliper bracket's off and you can install your rotor. The rotor just goes through the lug bolts like that and it slides right on. It's a little crooked right now, but when the wheel gets torqued to it, it will be perfectly straight. You can then go and install the caliper bracket back on with the T60 Torx bit. I had to remove my inner pad for a second, but I will put that back in right now, and you can install your caliper just by sliding it on. The two caliper bolts will go in, you can tighten them down with the 15mm socket. I then took my breaker bar and tightened down the caliper bracket and the caliper. You do not want these items loose. It is a good idea when you're finished to clean off the rotor using brake cleaner to remove all the grease and anything else that might have gotten on the rotor during the installation. So you can see that this is the old discs. They were just beat to crap. It was metal on metal pads. These pads were okay on this side, but they're pretty low. But here's the new setup. It's a lot better now. Fresh disc, fresh pads, re-undercoated the entire wheel well. Got a bit more work to do, but the front end is looking almost complete now. And that's how you change your discs and your pads on a '99 Chevy Lumina.